Hello and welcome. My name is Roger Snook from IBM, and I want to welcome our business partners and clients to Your Apps Are Your Business, sponsored by IBM, Veeam, and Fortinet, two of our friendly IBM Cloud business partners that we work with across our spectrum of solutions. This is the first of a series of 3 sessions. I'll get into the details of the entire series in just a moment, but this first one is really focused on just some lightning round demos that we will call episode 1, Protect in Place. It's all really about business continuity and how we recognize that your apps are your business and how do you keep them up and running, secure, and available for your employees. So the our partners are today joining us are Veeam and Fortinet, and we'll go through some topics around availability and recovery as well as security, because these are two areas that when we build applications, we're really focused on delivering those kinds of abilities, capabilities in our systems. So as I mentioned, your apps are your business. You know which ones are important. They're the ones that are generating revenue or lowering costs through automation. And those applications came to be by either building or buying them off the shelf. And the next step in your equation might be modernizing those applications or even building some new applications, whether they're mobile, AI, analytics, IoT, or even an API based project. That is, you're exposing some of your vital assets and business processes to other applications to join the digital economy. All of these applications can be built and run on our platform and infrastructure as a service with IBM Cloud. And as I mentioned, these abilities are part of a long-standing tradition of one of my favorite F words, FERPs. FERPs stands for functionality, usability, reliability, performance, and scalability. This is how applications have been built over the many years, and this is how developers can build trust, and operations folks, so dev and ops folks, come together to build the trust in those applications across that spectrum of FERP's requirements. So, of course, in the requirements realm, functional requirements, if I'm building a hotel reservation system, for example, at the end of the hotel reservation use case, I will get a confirmation number denoting my reservation. And that's the purpose, the function is to reserve a hotel room, provide a confirmation number. But it's not just about the functional requirements. Clearly, that delivers value. But a lot of these, what are called non-functional requirements, really are important to the business continuity and the viability of these applications that developers and operations people put their trust in building. Usability is one. Does it take only a few number of clicks or taps to get to what functionality we want to have? Is it consistent and responsive? The reliability, is it highly available, or is it only available in certain windows? Is it highly recoverable if disaster were to strike? Do you have a recoverability scenario with any kind of disaster recovery situation built in? Is it highly secure? Clearly this is an era where application security is just vital. Performance, is the system not only responsive, but due to high load conditions or fending off DDoS attacks, is it performing well? Is it going to scale well? So scalability is another key piece of that equation. So these FERPs, and there's a link on the page for more information, have been around for decades. And again, it's a way for us to build trust in applications. So as we look at the cloud landscape and how applications come to be and where our customers are making those investments, there's really three big scenarios, or as we're saying, episodes. They don't necessarily have to be in this time order, but we're putting them in this time order for convenience. Number one, protect in place. That is, leverage the availability, recoverability, and security of systems like IBM Cloud to provide that protection, that business continuity to handle those unplanned events that might occur. One example is, hey, I need a disaster recovery plan with a starting with perhaps backups with a low recovery time objective. This is one place where, again, you'll see from some of our business partner solutions, we can offer that kind of capability. Episode 2, Securely Shift, Scale, and Save, is really all about the moving your workloads into the cloud, rehosting or replatforming them into the cloud to leverage, to shed some costs from your own data centers, but also to provide the scalability and maintainability of those applications and its infrastructure in a cloud. So oftentimes, again, this is, hey, I need to exit my costly data center by a certain date or face some fines that might be in place. And then finally, episode 3 is methodically modernize or create new applications. And this is all about reaching new customers and improving and retaining existing customers through an improved client or employee interaction. Oftentimes, this requires some refactoring, maybe some rewriting, new applications, maybe retooling or retraining the team to embrace an agile, project life cycle. So it's all about the functionality, features, but also usability. So these episodes we're going to embody in this first session with Protect in Place. And spanning the availability, recoverability, and security, we're going to often see, for example, IBM Power Systems, very popular system. Some of our customers come to us to say, hey, we've got an existing Power VS. Maybe it's on a Caribbean island, and we need IBM Cloud as a DR site, disaster recovery site, in case something were to happen in that hurricane vulnerable area. Perhaps your workforce is coming in and out, either due to pandemic or shifting work schedules. You want to provide remote employee access to applications using a desktop as a service capability and make those available so that your business can continue. Or perhaps you're just looking to leverage some various capabilities, infrastructure, storage that's living in one of the, for example, IBM Cloud data centers. We have these things called MZRs, multi-zone regions. There are 3 regions in any, or 3 zones in any one of our data centers that are built from these MZRs that provide this automatic HA or high availability. If one of those 3 goes down, the other 2 are available to ensure your applications are continuing to be up and running. Certainly in the recoverability, if something were to go wrong, you want to do some backups to prepare. Cloud Object Storage from IBM is one place where you can store all that data and retrieve it at a very low cost. Some of our partner solutions like Veeam that you'll hear from here soon also does backup and restore for VMware, another popular scenario in the IBM Cloud transition. And of course, under security, de-risking with a keep your own key approach, wide area firewalls, cyber recovery for content to ensure, again, you have the ability to recover, even development and test assets, continuous scanning of those applications to ensure compliance. And of course, the IBM catalog has a number of firewalls. You'll hear from some today in the Fortinet section, but also having the ability to leverage, SSL certificates and So those are all part of that. And certainly in the securely shift, scale, and save, we have a number of other solutions. I'm not going to focus on these, but rather save those for the other episodes. But this is all about parlaying or saving money by securely shift scale into an IBM cloud and then parlaying that into a new application development that is taking that cost savings of not having to maintain those data centers and shifting that cost into development of new experiences for your customers to drive either new customer acquisition or customer retention. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to switch over to an application that actually I've built that leverages IBM Cloud. It's called AppVestor. If you're familiar with Warren Buffett and his investing strategies, one of them, those investing strategies, is buy stock in products you buy. That is, if you like, for example, Crest toothpaste, like I do, I would buy Procter and Gamble stock. So you take that same concept. Many of us use a lot of different apps on our phone. Why don't you invest in those apps? Companies who make those apps, the ones that are publicly traded. So AppVestor does exactly that. This is again, it's just a natively built Android application, but it leverages enterprise cloud services such as database as a service, as well as the service I'm going to show now, which is the ability to onboard users into an application quickly by using social media interfaces. So here we can onboard using this service called App ID from IBM Cloud. App ID is the name of the service. And I can integrate with Facebook or Google to quickly onboard a user's ID into the cloud. So here I'm just going to go ahead and type in my email address, but if I had leveraged that service, it would automatically import that information directly from the social media plugin. So App ID is one of those. And the other service that's being used here is the Cloudant NoSQL database. For NoSQL databases have kind of displaced SQL databases as the mobile application database of choice. It's not that SQL databases are going away. Those are clearly still a vital part and can be found also on IBM Cloud. But I use this Cloudant NoSQL from IBM Cloud to house the stock symbols and applications. So here, as you can see, you'll see a number of applications that are installed on my phone. If you're not familiar, Audible, for example, is an Amazon app. IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, also owned by Amazon. Shazam, which is that fun little music recognition app, that's actually owned by Apple. So you'll see a number of stocks, and this is the goal of the application is these stocks now are ones that I might want to consider investing in because I have a number of those companies are publicly traded companies, and it gives me the ability to, again, recognize what those are and potentially invest in those stocks if I choose so. And you can see, of course, IBM. There's a number of IBM applications also built on, installed on my phone, and then, of course, it wouldn't be a good usher of data privacy unless I had some ability to withdraw my email address. And I actually have an article on this as well. If I remove my permission to consent to my data being collected, then I actually have a database that's being monitored by a cloud function. You might know them as like a Lambda service, but these are serverless type of capabilities. And so I can withdraw my permission and something is monitoring the database to alert the data owner of the application to withdraw the permission and then hence no longer contact the person. You just saw a sample of a modernized application. Now let's take a look at some things you may not know about IBM's trusted cloud capabilities. In the Protect and Place where we see our cloud as being the most resilient and secure offering in the market. You might not know that cloud object storage is often cheaper than AWS S3 storage. AWS is known for, their S3 storage, and it probably represents maybe about 40% of their revenues. So that's, again, a fact you might not know. And again, cloud object storage, which is S3 compatible, may actually often be cheaper than what you might be paying with AWS. We do have the largest global Power VS footprint on the planet. IBM Cloud is the only FIPS 140-2 level 4 keep your own key provider. And really, we're the only cloud provider that allows you to manage security and compliance controls across multiple clouds. In the securely shift, scale, and save, where again, we assert we're the most compliant and performant cloud provider, there's the largest choice of infrastructure configurations, bare metal, VPC, virtual private compute, including VMware, where we've had a history of success with over 2,000 clients and well over 800,000 different applications and workloads running on IBM Cloud through VMware. IBM is the only cloud provider to offer SAP certified Power VS instances, and hence the only cloud provider to provide AIX, IBM I, Linux, and SAP HANA on Linux. Another little known fact is we actually have some of the highest payout rates for missing our service level agreements. We have a high degree of pride in the service level agreement we provide for uptime in our cloud, and we're willing to put our money where our mouth is on that. And finally, on the methodically modernize, I'll talk about this here in just a moment. The IBM Cloud is in the top 3 of public cloud Kubernetes deployments. Really, for developers who like Kubernetes, IBM is the first to market with taking the upstream Kubernetes distribution and bringing that into enterprise capability for over 4 years running now. And if you look at some of the market metrics, IBM is not a number 5 or 7 on the cloud list, but it's actually in the top 3 of choices for infrastructure as service to run Kubernetes-based applications. So it's a trusted place for that, and we welcome our customers looking for that. So there are a number of other sparklers and awards for IBM Cloud, really focused on our 3 pillars of security leadership, having an open hybrid distributed cloud. We are a hybrid cloud and AI company after all. So we have a number of options along the spectrum of hybrid cloud capabilities, and then also giving clients that enterprise grade choice. And of course, there's more from IBM surrounding these particular areas, and cloud, IBM Cloud plays a vital part in many of these different scenarios, including things like dev and test on for the Z using IBM Cloud. So you don't need to spin up cycles or pay for those cycles on the Z. Rather, you can just leverage them in the cloud on demand for your application dev and test cycles. Okay, so to continue further, I am now going to pass it over to our colleagues over at Veeam to talk about availability and recoverability as we continue the rest of our agenda.
My name is Jim Lowry. I work for Veeam. I'm a senior systems engineer there. I've been working with the cloud and service provider division within Veeam for about coming up on 5 years now. I've been in the industry within storage and backup for about 16, 17 years now. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity I have to talk to you guys today. I'll have 3 different presentations back to back that we're going to go through today. And the first one is going to be talking about IBM Cloud Object Storage. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, cool. All right. Cool. So we're going to talk today a little bit first on Cloud Object Storage. And let's see if I get the slide to start on the right one this time. You see my pretty face here. So it's really hard. How do you demo a storage repository, right? So that makes it a little interesting. And the way that I decided to go about this is to say, let's talk about the use cases. What is object storage? Why should I use it? And then what what's the differentiator with IBM Cloud Object Storage? Why should I leverage that compared to another vendor? And then we'll kind of go through a little bit of some examples of how to set up some immutable repositories, as well as a little bit of conversation throughout this particular session here. So what is object storage and why should I use it? Let's get to answer that question. There's three different types of methods of storage, or three different storage file systems, so to speak, although they're not really file systems. You've got object storage, block storage, and file storage. Block storage and file storage have been around for a very long time, and so has object. But it hasn't been a primary use in the market. So sometimes it's easier to compare what object is by comparing to what you know well, which is block storage or file. File would just be your normal NFS or SMB file shares where it's one person coming in, or one server can host many people coming in and manipulating or reading the same data. Block storage is your physically attached drives. You're getting down to the actual disk sector and your SCSI connections. So you're going to have blocks of data in chunks written to disk. And both of those are going to use different types of file systems to coordinate with how they will react and write down and read from different disk media. Block storage controls it very, very well about what is the disk type, how are we striping, what's the block size, where file storage is more just an overlay as part of the operating system, and the operating system is controlling how it gets to disk. So object storage is a little different. It has no file system. It is a complete flat file structure, so there's no hierarchy, which makes it very, very good for large unstructured data sprawl, where block storage is really, really great for structured data, and file storage is kind of a good thing for unstructured data, and work collaboration, but not necessarily at great scale. And that's where object really shines, is it allows you to have these multiple buckets that are a flat file system and perform very well, especially in largest data sets of unstructured data, which is growing by leaps and bounds. So from the use cases, one of the most important things, I don't know how that URL got on there, that's weird. So best practices for data protection are one of the most important pieces we can use here at Veeam, but what we stress very heavily with object storage particularly is in what we call our 3-2-1 rule. And this is one of the reasons why we should be using object storage. So the 3-2-1 rule is that we should have 3 copies of your data, your production, a backup copy, and a secondary or tertiary copy. So a secondary backup or tertiary copy offsite somewhere else. And you want on 2 different media sets, so you don't have a single type of failure. So that would be either spinning media on disk or object offsite or tape. And you want to have one site offsite copy storage for protection. Recently, we've also added another 1 and 0 to our 3-2-1 rule. The second one means that one of those systems should be immutable or air-gapped or offline for ransomware protection. And the 0 is that there should absolutely be no errors whatsoever when we're trying to do any type of restore or validation. A backup is not good if you can't restore it and can't use it. All right, so everything that Veeam does is to make sure our restores can happen as quickly as possible and always work and guarantee that they work, allowing you to be able to use some automation testing. And object storage is a fantastic way to meet the 3-2-1 rule in a number of different ways. One of those is the scalability. You need offsite storage, you have huge data sprawl, your file share servers aren't keeping up with it. It's just very expensive to keep putting into buying huge racks of servers and big dumps of storage for stuff you don't need to use very often. Where tape is not necessarily the way you want to go because you may need access to it sooner, and for an SLA reason that it wouldn't make sense to have a 30-minute or a 30-day SLA tied to it. You might need something that's kind of hours faster to restore versus weeks. So object storage allows you to have that horizontal scaling and mass vertical scaling without impacting performance, where block and file will have different types of performance hits depending on how you scale out or scale up. So objects are a really good hybrid approach to scale and of that massive data sprawl with unstructured data. So what are some use cases beyond just offsite backup with storage? Unstructured data growth, as I mentioned, cost controls, because now you can use different tiers. You have different types of retention policies, and this is where IBM really starts to differentiate itself with other markets and other object vendors that are out there because of the way that they integrate with us and with their ecosystem. We're able to have these different cost retention tiers to find ways that make sense for you in your business on how to run object storage utilization. If you know something's a deep archive and it's not going to get touched, but you have to keep it for regulatory reasons, well, then IBM's a great fit for that because you can find cheap storage at a cheaper price because it's so cold you don't need to necessarily restore from it. You just need to keep it in case of regulatory compliance. And finally, ransomware protection. Object storage is a phenomenal asset strategy as part of ransomware protection. And this is another reason where IBM really starts to shine. So why object storage? Why cloud object storage specifically, comparatively? Well, it's not just cause that makes it so powerful, which it is, just that solution, but it's the entire ecosystem built within the IBM cloud. Unlike some of the other hyperscaler competitors, IBM, to integrate with Veeam, does not need a custom appliance that had to be built. And that's because they standardize on VMware as their hypervisor. And that makes what we can do with them incredibly powerful and a lot more secure because I don't have to add in a third appliance that can, with different feature sets and different abilities, just to natively integrate with the hypervisor and make the cloud powerful. We can already do that because Veeam and VMware are tightly integrated. Veeam was born specifically to work with backups for VMware, right? And what I really like the idea here in your head of when you're looking within IBM Cloud, because you're standardized on this VMware hypervisor, even though you're operating on a cloud-hosted environment, it looks and feels like it was native to your data center because it's exactly what you would be building in your data center or extending naturally out to it within the cloud in a hybrid model. And that's one of the reasons why Cause is so powerful, because it just plugs in directly with the ecosystem that you're already using, but it takes advantage of what the abilities that Cause brings you. For example, the amount of uptime that you have with Cause. I think last I looked, they were up to 13 nines or maybe 15 nines of uptime and reliability of the actual data. It's geo-dispersed hardware, so you could have data in different geographies across the country, across a region, and lose entire data centers of all that storage and still have access to read and write your data because it's taking advantage of a really nice set for erasure coded technology where you're able to customize how far apart you want your data sets and your data centers to be, but also ensure that in X number of failures, I can still read and perform all the work that I need to do with my object repository. And that's something that Cause does better than anybody. Their data resiliency in that platform is second to nobody in the market. You can see in the image here, it's a really good representation of, if you look at site 3, those 4 X's, that means that, so that whole hardware's down. They've lost one site completely. They also have lost another set server within site 2. So they have only 2 of 3 sites running and 7 of 12 servers that are processing their object storage. Yet, because of the way they designed this with geo-dispersed hardware and erasure coding, you're still up, you're still running, and you don't have to worry about data loss. Everything is still there and absolutely protected. And it's a very powerful story. And that's something that you get to take advantage of within the IBM Cloud natively, because it's just there. IBM is taking care of the geodispersal and uptime requirements to make this technology work for you available natively to you within VMware, and our backups will target it easily. Another really good selling point for this thing is what we can do with immutability in ransomware protection. What I'm going to talk about here with ransomware specifically, keep in mind that this is not a one solution for everything. Ransomware is a multi-pronged attack and requires multiple different layers of strategy to attack them and to prevent. but immutability is one of the strongest. And the Veeam platform has leveraged the API format for object-level immutability since our inception with the code of bringing in object and immutability 3 or 4 years ago now. And the reason we opted to go that route was because of the technologies involved with it, where air gapping is still the best way to protect all your data. Sometimes that's not cost-wise or a reliable way to do so. The advantage of using object storage is that I can get as close to air gap protection as you can with technology that's still online, but I can still make it immutable, and I can leverage all of my data, make it immutable the moment a backup job is done running. So for example, if I'm using an offline or air gap tape solution and I want to protect that data, how often am I running that backup job that's air gapped to the tape server? Maybe you have up to a month lag at some point between what's on tape and what's on premise. And that's a solid strategy because you still need to use those things, right? Again, it's piecemeal. It's a part of the puzzle. The benefit of using ransomware immutability protection with cause and object level is that the moment any Veeam backup job is done running at any time, whether it's a full backup, synthetic or active, or it's an incremental backup file, it doesn't matter. The moment that backup job is done, I can immediately make a copy of that backup file and stick it in object storage and mark it immutable. That means I can restore, in the event of a ransomware attack, I can restore my data back to the most recent copy of backup files. I don't have to go find one that's there that doesn't have the ransomware on it. I have it, and I can go back in, and even if the most recent is there, you've been attacked, I can still, we're using Secure Restore, go through, remove those files prior to putting them back on the network to bring your business back online. You can scrub everything out that you need and then go back and recover. And you can do that off your most recent copy. And because things are immutable, there's absolutely nothing that can be done to change those. So let's go a little bit over immutability and kind of give you a quick example of what's going on. With immutability, there are no God rights. There are some vendors who will look at immutability as a way, okay, well, we don't want somebody to brick their storage system. Well, why don't we put in a backdoor so that if X number of escalation points within support, so that global management gets together of an organization and says, okay, here, we're good. These guys really need it. We have the keys now. We're going to go back in and override that so that you can make it immutable or unimmutable and change what you need. That's not immutability. You've created a backdoor so that, and if there's a backdoor, it can be exploited. Even if it's really hard to do, doesn't mean that it can't be done. So you're really opening yourself up for risk. True immutability has no God rights. There's no way for somebody to come in there and edit these, encrypt these, delete these files in any way whatsoever until that clock expires, right? You do not want to enter in with God rights that somebody might be able to exploit, okay? And that's a good example of that is here. So in this screenshot, and these are backing up to cause systems, I have somebody trying to come in, and you can look at I'm running a backup job within Veeam, and you can see in a highlighted block that somebody tried to delete something. You can look that it's saying that, hey, I tried to delete something and I can't actually do it. So on right ahead of that says a backup deleted with warning is two lines above the green square here. Failed to delete the immutable storage count. Somebody tried to delete something and saying, hey, I can't, and here's the expiration date of when I can. So right now, I can't do anything about it because I have to wait until that date and timestamp has been met. And then the system, because of policies you put in place on retention and immutability policies, that's when it will be able to be deleted. So accidental or maliciously, nobody can get in there and delete those files. And if you actually go look at the files that we're backing up at this case, you can see that they're even flagged as immutability and that a root user can't go in there and delete them either. It's just not possible. And this is true immutability, true data resiliency and protection that Cause and IBM are running together with our platforms. I'll show you quickly about this guy, and then we'll move into the next demo. So let me share my screen here, and we're going to go into, where did it go? There we go. RDP. So there's my RDP session here. Okay. So I'm looking, this is inside Veeam Backup and Replication Server. I've logged into my VBR server, and I just want to show real quickly kind of how you can leverage and create an immutable object repository. So these are all machines that are hosted within our lab and targeting an IBM cloud repository using COS as the backup storage. What I want to do, if I want to add a repository for object storage, I would be able to click on Add, cleverly enough. And what's nice, when you go into the object storage array, we have different partners, but you can see very clearly right in here, the IBM Cloud Object Storage is one of our main partners. We don't just do that for everybody, right? Once I'm in there, we can select a name, apply it. I'll show you how to from here because I don't have time to edit the keys, but I'll just show you from here. So I'm the same wizard, but I've got the name of it. I've got the credentials that I want to apply to get into the S3 bucket that I've already created. Now I'm looking to validate that those credentials are working. Okay, I've got it. Here's my bucket. Here's how many objects I want to consume. But you can also see here that I've been able to make this immutable. I can't change this now because it's already set to be immutable. I can go back in and maybe manipulate the days, but I can't go back and make it unimmutable. Not through this process here. And again, that's another enforcement of it's immutable. We're not allowing people to go in there and just, oh yeah, it's not going to be immutable anymore. Once the repository has been designated immutable, we keep it that way. And then every object underneath it is also flagged as immutable until that time expires. All right. So once all that's done, you would be able to see within the repositories here that I've been able to create specific repositories that are part of my target, that they are flagged as immutable, and that we were not able to go in there and I would not be able to delete, edit, or encrypt any of those backup files. I would be able to still read them and restore from them, which is great, right? Because that means you don't want to make it so you can't read it, but I just can't change it, which is awesome. And that's true immutable protection as a primary strategy to protect you from ransomware. All right. So our story with AIX is actually pretty good, and it's expanding rapidly. This latest release for us really helped drive in a lot of really tight integrations. And then one of my counterparts and I, Sam Fawaz, who's graciously attending in the background, we've been doing a lot of very heavy analysis on this and bringing things up from both our customer base when you guys talk to us, as well as things that we find about improvements that we can do with the machine. And there's a lot of really cool things that are coming relatively shortly to help tighten that integration. And I'll show you some of those things in the demo when we get to that. So keep your questions coming. But our story is still very, very compelling right now, as it is on the truck. So I'll do a quick overview of our integration with AIX. Architecture overview of what the components are, how we integrate specifically with AIX and Power VS, and then we'll go through the demo. So for Veeam Backup for AIX, there are four main components: the Veeam Agent Service, the Veeam Agent Job Manager, the Veeam Agent itself, and a SQLite database engine. So the Veeam Agent Service is what communicates with the backup job. It kind of helps move things around. The Agent Job Manager is exactly what it sounds like. It manages all the jobs. That's kind of where everything is created and stored and knows what to do with it. And the Veeam Agent is the overlay software that interacts and controls both of those things. Right? So that's the agent that you would deploy itself. And then the SQLite database which is like incredibly tiny and meg in size, is there for keeping track of all of the different records that are created through the job manager. and any changes and stuff like that. So it's not, so here, integration, what can we do with it? What can we make with these pieces here? We can do data protection operations. So that includes physical power servers, Power VS we can do. Move these workloads between different places so I can protect these machines that are running in the cloud. Like I can do restore operations whenever I need to into different formats. So I can move them from a VMDK into a VHD, or, you know, if I needed to. Thankfully, with what's cool with what you guys do with IBM Cloud, because you're all on VMDKs, we can take advantage of all the VMware hypervisor commands and APIs to migrate, move the data around as needed using VMware if it needs to move a Power VS server somewhere, right? Using vSphere or Data Motion or Storage vMotion, things along those lines. One thing we cannot do just yet, but this is so close, is being able to do a physical to virtual migration. That is coming very quickly. But we had to repackage our formats because we create them in .isos, and Power VS doesn't support the ISO format. So we're creating a new into one of the new formats that it does, so like TarGZ or something like that. So we'll be able to take a physical backup of a machine using that file and then move it into a Power VS for migration purposes natively. So that's coming very, very quickly. I'm very excited about that. And then we're also able to, you know, perform the different types of administrative tasks that you would need with it. You know, disable, deleting backup jobs, remove policy changes, things along those lines. So it's very, very compelling integration. And now I get to show it to you. So while I get that set up here, let's go back to our computer. Okay. So right now I'm logged into the VBR server. I want to show you a couple of things in here. So because we're using the physical agent, we need to use a protection group right now to be able to create them. So I've created a Power VS protection group. So this is where all of the different machines that I want to be protected using this specific agent file, because you can do different agent files might have different retention policies, or, you know, backup jobs you want scheduled every hour versus every couple of hours or once a day. So you can create different policies and put them into a specific protection group. But each protection group would be dedicated in this instance just for AIX on the same system. So I've got that created, I've got it mapped, and this is all part of the installation, where you can come back and now physically map it back to VBR, where you couldn't do that previously. So the VBR now has a lot of insight and control over it. And this is the first major stepping ground for getting VBR to do a lot of deeper integration with it. So the V5 version of this agent is going to be very, very powerful. Let's show you some of the cool stuff. So I'm going into the backups, and within the backups, I've got this is my backup job for AIX, Cleverly named Backup AIX. And here's the server that I'm backing up. You can see I've got 10 restore points. And what I'm going to do is start to restore them. So I'm going to start the restore process from here. So I'm doing that restore by just right-clicking and getting into the restore file. And then you'll see that I'm going to be able to go in and see all 10 of those restore points, the one full as well as the incrementals. Now, I am also logged in to the lab AIX server. So I'm going to go in here, and I have some files that I want to delete. Okay. All right. So if you can see, let me make this a little bigger. Okay. So let me clear this out again. You can see clearly. Okay. So in here, I've got my Hello World file in this directory, and I am going to delete that file. There we go. And it's dead. So you can now validate that I have killed that file. It is no longer there, right? What I'm able to do through here is able to start doing these restores. So I'm going to pick the most recent backup, but I can pick any backup there that I want. And I'm going to add a helper host. So the helper host is what's going to connect and come up and allow the bridge between VBR and the AIX server to come together. No, I'm not doing a new Linux server. Sorry, I've already said it. All right, so now that I've told it to execute, that helper appliance is getting turned on, and it's going to mount the backup copies. And this is one way to do the restore processes. We still fully support using the AIX API, not API, excuse me, command line to go in there and do that. In fact, while this is loading, I'll show you a couple of cool things. So I mentioned my counterpart, Sam Fawaz. He has done a ton of work creating scripts that you can do, customize your own scripts to be able to go in and manipulate the AIX engine however you want. We have a PowerShell module that you can install and download to help you do Veeam-specific PowerShell commands. And that's where you can see an example of some of the scripts that he has put together, being able to do specific things that he wants done or during an onboard. So right now the script is set up so that we can execute the script and it will deploy, install, and configure the Veeam agent for us, the Veeam backup for agent, AIX agent install, and go back and connect it. So very, very customizable, very, very thorough and deep integration with the CLI interface. And because of that, we're starting to see that get ported over into the GUI, right? So as I mentioned, I deleted the hello world text. I'm sorry, I want, where's Veeam? Where'd it go? Okay. I want guest, oh, there we go. Okay. So I have, in this case, browsed so I've got my helper appliance mapped to it. I've browsed to it, and now I'm going to restore that file. So through the helper appliance, I've said, okay, I want to restore. Right now, through the GUI, you'll see that this is grayed out. And that's because in the next version, we expect to see that this would be not turned on. But we've already outlined the code and the functionality that's there. We're just waiting for it to get validated and perfected before we put it back into the GUI. So for now, I can only do a copy. In order to do the copy too, and this is only through the GUI, right? I can do whatever I want through the CLI. So right now I'm going to say, hey, in the CLI, let's go to the C drive and I want to mount that system and restore it right now, restore the file to that system. Okay. So I'm almost done copying it. It is a very large 13-byte file. So everything went through, good to go. And now you can see that it popped up on my C drive. Because I already have the system mounted to it, I'm going to use WinCP secure copy, and I'm going to post that by browsing to my C drive, which I happen to have up right now. And now I can say, put it back. So I've copied it back to where I wanted it. I took it. Yes. So it's had to overwrite because I didn't refresh it on this side to show that it actually been deleted, but it did. So I've been able to copy that file back over here by using a copy to method through the GUI, and those files are restored. So let's go back over to my handy dandy interface here. And you can see that the hello world has now gently been put back by a copy to method. Again, you can do all of this through the CLI. You're able to mount the backup files through the CLI, browse through those files by creating a virtual instance through Power BS, by mounting everything through the mounter helper appliance, get the files you need and restore them back to wherever you want. But that is a quick demo of what we can do with AIX, all on Power BS. All of this is being hosted within the IBM lab on Power BS. This is a different lab VBR server that I am logged into. And what we're going to do here is show you how to easily migrate your stuff into the IBM cloud. So in this case, I am going to show you two different types of replicas and how I can use these as a migration tool to take your entire VCD org into a new virtual data center within IBM Cloud, or to do it with a simple repository. Simple replica job. So this is what's so cool about this is that because you guys are on VMware as a hypervisor with IBM Cloud, we can do anything in our feature portfolio, where our competitors and other hyperscalers, because they have to have a custom built appliance, I have to wait for those functions to be added into that. So this is a huge advantage for IBM. Migrating into and out of IBM Cloud is simple because I'm doing it all through VMware, and everybody knows how to move things around within VMware. All of the admins you're going to be working with your customer base are going to understand how to manipulate things. So this is incredibly powerful, and I'm going to show you how that all works. So right now, I'm logging into IBM Cloud. In my account within IBM Cloud, I've got a VCD server configuration set up from another lab environment coming into here. So this is my target. Right now, when I get into my virtual organization, you can see that I've got a bunch of different virtual machines, up to 14 different machines. So I've got domain controllers, SQL servers, web servers, Apache server, a bunch of other workstations, very, very large workload. That's very important. But it's all part of this particular organization within VMware Cloud Director. Okay. I can also see that I've got different vApps that are controlling different pieces. So I've got a management app within my organization, databases, custom apps, and then different workstations, all within my specific organization's environment. Okay. So in my other lab environment, you can see in here, where'd it go? Oops. Don't want to say. Okay, so back in here, we can look at replicas, and these are all different replica jobs of all of those 4 different appliances that are all part of the same virtual organization, right? This test group. So this is the source. This is where everything is running. And I can log in here. I can view that everything's going. I have all these restore points that are going for however often they're set to run. And I've got everything running hot as a replica. Almost over here, I've got these all in shutdown mode. They're offline, but they are constantly being updated and kept in sync. And we can use this technology with not only just replica jobs, but with our continuous data protection as well, so that when you have those critical workloads that are in the seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds of a RTPO or RTO or RPO, right? We can do that. We can leverage that, and there's no extra cost for that. This is our way of leveraging technologies that Zerto and SRM at VMware have had a pretty tight grip on in the market. But with our CDP engine coming in there, and it's just part of our operating system, it's part of our software with no add-on price, I can come in now and start doing these migrations. So I've got everything here already set up. Everything's ready to go to seed. And if I want it to front run over, I can turn that on and hit start right now. And as soon as I hit start, which I won't do because I don't want to disrupt the lab environment. My buddies will kill me. But the moment I hit that, I can now execute a failover plan that I've put in place, and I have just migrated your physical data center into a virtual data center using VMware Cloud Director. So I can take that entire organization at once, automate it, So it comes over here, and now I'm running immediately in IBM Cloud. And that's phenomenal, right? Just think about the engineering that goes behind that. The ability to take an entire organization's infrastructure that's all set up and move it into the cloud and cut it over with no downtime. And now you're running within IBM Cloud. And the whole reason that works is because of their entire cloud ecosystem, and leveraging VMware the way that they do empowers IBM to be a top tier cloud service provider. And we can do this with replicas outside of the VMware Cloud Director as well. So these two machines, these two different replicas, they're just a simple, quote unquote, simple replica job for single machines of a workstation and a Linux workstation, Microsoft and Linux workstations that have simple replicas that are running over into the cloud. And I can still come over and do this exact same thing. So it doesn't matter how complex the environment or how simple the environment. I can get an environment that is on a physical or even virtual premise and migrate into the cloud with a snap of a finger, all by putting in the time that you need to set up in advance and have everything there. But I have true DR as a service for your entire organization, ready to go at the drop of a hat. And with that, that will conclude the demo of the 3 different topics. I know that I have thrown a lot of data at you, very, very different focuses here, but hopefully you were able to get something helpful out of it to show just the power of IBM Cause, the power of AIX, and the power of migrating into IBM Cloud while leveraging Veeam's technology to do it. We're the best in the business, and there's a reason for it, because what we do works. The best compliment you can give us. What we say we can do it, and we do it very well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the IBM team. And unless there's any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, my name is Felix. I'm Jumbo, the Cloud Technical Specialist for Southeast US National Market. Like Jim spoke earlier on about cloud object storage, and of course Jim have already talked about it, and he did a wonderful explanation about it. But just real quick, because we don't have time, what we're gonna do here is just to talk about cloud object storage in regards to data security and regulation. So one of the business challenges of any business that are regulated out there, that normally generally that has that needs the solution for cloud object storage on IBM Cloud. We have different business challenges out there, but all we're going to focus is one of those challenges, which is data security, regulation, and compliance. So we have the compliance, data content. Of course, Jim mentioned the ransomware protection through Veeam. So for the cloud object storage for data management and resiliency, of course, IBM Cloud Object Storage, we are top rated last year to be better, faster, cheaper, and we have our availability across the regions, multi-regions, zones of our data centers that those data that's well the regulated ones can actually be stored in. Storage feasibility, designed to protect security and control over your data with exclusion options, policies, and permissions. So we'll go right in the demo. What we're going to see in the demo is just the minimalist aspect of creating cloud object storage on IBM Cloud, spinning up the instances of cloud object storage, and in regards to having your key protect integrated and activity tracker integrated into it, creating the bucket, and we are going to try to upload the data and see how those policies that we are going to put in when we are creating the storage bucket, how we are going to say to protect the data from deletion or from having a legal hold on the data. So just getting to the quick. So I'm going into, this is the dashboard for IBM Cloud, as you all know. Just to get in, we're going to select our catalog and just a search. So object storage, just select object storage. So we're trying to spin up object storage service on IBM Cloud. We'll, just for the sake of this demo, we're going to select the standard plan, go down to name of object storage instance demo. So we already have created the resource group, the demo, and we select that. And we go ahead and create our instance for cloud object storage on IBM Cloud. So this shows how easy, very fast it is to create cloud object storage instance on IBM Cloud. So once we create this, it's just spinning up. It doesn't take a long time. We are going to, we can go ahead and create a bucket here and do the integrations here. But just for the sake of this demo, we're going to just spin it up a little bit. So we can go back to the catalog and we will, next thing we're trying to see here is to create the key protect. Key protect is as part of the services and integrations on IBM Cloud for regulated data to protect your keys on IBM Cloud. So I'm just going to search key protect. So here we're going to create key protect and we're going to select a location. Let's use our Dallas location, and of course it has plan. And let's name it. So we're going to make it the demo, of course, and then select our source group and accept the terms. Go ahead and create it. So what we're just doing is to create and spin up all the services and instances for integration into our cloud object storage and the instance too. So we'll go ahead down here on the left corner and go to the keys, select the keys, and we're going to add a key, root key. So we're going to name our root key so then we go ahead and go to the advanced options to the key ring, select the default and add a key. So of course we have selected, we have created the key protect service. Then the last, not the last option, actually, the last, go back to the catalog to spin up an key activity tracker service. First, we are here at Dallas location, just to be consistent with our location. And then we go ahead and select 7-day event search. And we name it. And we select the same resource group where we have our instance, cloud storage instance, and then we create it. So, of course, that has been created. So the next just for the access, protection, and data security, we have to go and create a service for authorization who has access to the bucket, has access to the cloud storage. So I went to manage and then select access because that's gonna get us to access and authorization. So what we're going to do here is to select authorization, left-hand corner, go down here to select authorization. And we are going to go right to create. So to grant a service authorization, we're going to select the source service, which is object storage. Then select resource based on selected attribute. Then we are going to find our instance that we just created, which is this demo. And then we're going to find our key protect that we created earlier. And we go to the resource based on selected attribute, and then find the key, root key. So this is that we're gonna select. So, and then we put it in service access as a reader and authorize it. So that has been authorized, and the next is to go ahead and create a bucket on our instance. So for us to create a bucket, we have to go back to our resource list and then find our storage. So this is our instance that we created. So we are going to create a resource, a bucket on the cloud audio storage instance that we created earlier on. So for us to create a bucket, we go right here, select the bucket, customize the bucket. Of course, just to touch on the resiliency that I spoke earlier about, we have the different regions, multi-regions and cross-regions, single site. This is based on what the requirements or regulations that or the compliance that the company or the business want to meet. So for the sake of this demo, we're going to select beyond regional, that's the base performance, was US West or South. Then we're going to name it. So just let me show you this bucket demo, take demo. And there are classes of the storage. There is smart tier, standard tier, vault, code vault. All of these three of the classes are based on how you want to access the data. Do you want to access it, of course, once a week or one few times in a year or regularly? Those determine the times on how you select it. But just to mention, smart tiers is one of the bugs because automatically determine when you use your data, how you use it, and then it will automatically select the perfect class for you. So it saves you cost and actually get you the right performance. So the next we're going to do is to go down here and add a retention policy. This is minimum of 0. period of one. We just want to, this is just an example to show you the policies you can add just because it's a regulated data environment. Maximum is 7 days. So save it. And we can add an expiration date. Yes. And we add a encryption, which is our key that we created earlier. So pre-protect, this is where we're going to integrate it into the bucket. So we use existing key, and then we're going to find our key root key. We're going to select that and associate the key to the bucket. So the other thing we're going to do is to activate our activity tracker that we created earlier. This is where we integrate it also to the bucket. How am I good with time? Five minutes, okay. Yeah, we're almost done. So of course, we have already activated the activity tracker on the bucket. And events, we're gonna add it to read and write. We're gonna create the bucket. So it's really quick. So our bucket has been created, and the last part of this demo is to do a little quick upload to the bucket. Just a file, just a JPG file I have on my system, just to show you those policies that we put when we're creating it. There's expiration, there's retention policies, how it works, and how we prevent data to be lost, and how we prevent anyone to access the data, and also to see how, to show you how the activity tracker works, to monitor what's going on the bucket, monitor what is going on the service. So we're going to try just to show you all we have inputted. This is where all our configuration is. So this is where our activity tracker is, and this is our rotation policy. You can always set this the way you want it. You can always go in and edit it and add it. So this is just a demo. This is just a sample of what we, just to make it easy and faster. So just to go back to our objects, and we are going to upload an image file. So to upload, of course, I select upload on the right corner there, and upload files. So I have this file already that I created. Start with AJ11. So I'm just going to upload it. So when you're uploading a file, you can go to advanced here to select what how you want the file to, what's the rotation policy you want the file. Because we already have a maximum of 8 days on the storage, so you cannot go beyond 8 days. So you can go from 0 to 7 days. So anytime you want to create upload a file, you're always going to select the rotation policy, rotation period you want that file to be on. So, but the thing also is, I want to show you something. When you put 0 and upload this file is going to upload. This file can be deleted anytime because it doesn't have any retention policy, there's no retention period on it. So you can go ahead and anyone can go and delete this file without, let me just show you. Let's go ahead and delete. So the file is gone. But when you upload this file with retention period on it, those files are immutable as long as it stays the duration of where it wants it to be. So let me select 18. I'll go ahead and go to the advanced. And let me just select one on date. So if this file has been uploaded, and for me to delete this file, I'm trying. So I'm going to get an error. So I cannot delete this file because it has a detention period on it that restricts me from deleting it until the policy is achieved, like it's up to the detention period. So there's also another aspect of it I want to show you guys. Going to upload, you can select one. In case there's a sensitive data or sensitive document that is not, that you don't want anyone to touch, you don't want anyone to delete, you can actually put it when you want to upload it. You can actually have those policies attached to it when you're uploading. You can go to a legal hold and select the reason, select the name of the hold. It could be the sensitivity of the document. You can write uncompleted and then upload the file. That file, without even putting any retention period on it, that file cannot be deleted as long as you have the access and it's only you can delete that file. That file can be removable as long as you have not actually given anyone access to delete that file. So, but comes to the end of our demo, and just to protect what we have gone through today, we went ahead and set up those instances and services on IBM Cloud just to show you how easy, how streamlined is it. You can always do this through the CLI, of course, more advanced level to it, and but just to show you how easy on the console and how we can actually upload files and impute those mutable files just for data security and compliance to the regulations. Any other questions? Any question on the chat? All right, thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks. And as we switch into our security mode now, I again welcome our friends at Fortinet. And then we'll close out the rest of the day with some of the remaining security elements.
Thank you, Roger. Wake up, everybody. It's almost over. So my name is Bill Sheeran. I'm the Global Account Manager, Alliance Manager. George and I spend a great deal of focus delivering Fortinet-based offerings on IBM, as well as elsewhere throughout the organization with consulting, your Technology Lifecycle Services Group is a support partner of, so it fits in nicely with an NVS model. But today, this specific discussion, and in less than 2 minutes, this over to George, and he's going to show you how to launch an HA firewall in less than 7 minutes. But before we get into that, I just want to give anybody that's new to the Fortinet expression in our list of capabilities just a bit of a background. This was a slide put up by our CMO at, I think it was 2 weeks ago at our Accelerate National User Conference. And this is a perfect expression for me because it shows you that, yes, we are a very boring firewall company, but we deliver those firewall capabilities with two key differentiation. Number one, it's all in the same operating system, right? We're the run anywhere next generation firewall. Your cloud, their cloud, public cloud, private cloud, in a rack, in closet, under the cash register. We are the most used firewall company in all of retail, powerful firewall company in financial services. And if you dig in a little bit, you'll find out that we've got probably the most complete industrial OT, IoT platform capability that's out there. And then you add on top of that, that Fortinet for the last 8 years has been building the Fortinet fabric. which is an ecosystem of partners and published capabilities. In excess of 250 security vendors with over 400 instances of a unique integration have been published by this program. So we are the most integrated firewall that operates under a single operating system and is used anywhere in the world. And what's expressed here on this slide is that this is the future. The future is that companies, corporations, large enterprises, government entities are going to run different firewalls in different places for different purposes. But when you can unify the protection, you can deliver the threat intelligence across any of these platforms today and tomorrow. If you look all the way to the right, our most recent capability in our next generation container firewall will be released as soon as I can possibly get your IMS team to put it on OpenShift. That'll be our next foray, right? Everyone's talking containers and containerization, but at the end of the day, it's really just a new extension of automation and orchestration, of which I don't think there's anyone better at it than Fortin. So let me leave it there, give you guys the engineer that you look for and hoped for. I'm sure he's going to run over, so I will close my part and thank Roger and Danielle for the invitation. Can't wait to see you guys at the bar. I hope you go to Ship and Anchor. And with that, I'll hand it over to George Simons.
Thanks, Bill. So Bill did a little bit of fibbing, as he usually does. So Felix and Jim did live demo, not that great. I recorded my demo. My demo recording is 7 minutes long. I actually deployed AK pair of firewalls in VPC. From beginning to end, takes about 25 minutes. It's fantastic. And I just want to, just a couple of things before we jump into this. Since we've launched VPC in the United firewalls that we've had, development team working on very closely with ID development team. I think it's been about 2 years now that we've been this tile with high availability as well as a standalone firewall. We're still the only firewall company that's within the marketplace that has the ability to deploy high availability. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And the reason why we can do that is because our development team has created an IBM. Can you guys hear me now? And that cloud connector actually connects to IBM Cloud's backend APIs, which gives us the ability to fail over when error occurs and failover is detected. It actually flips the routes over to the standby firewall without any dropping of packets. I think maybe 1 or 2 packets, but sync stays, session stays, and it works really, really well, about as well as it does in the physical environment. So I'm going to play this and I'm going to talk through it as we go through. Just to let you guys know, so here's our Fortinet tiles. I'm choosing the HA tile here. And there's a little bit of provisioning prior to this that goes on. You have to configure your VPC, you have to have your subnet set up. That's just basic stuff, right? It has to be done wherever you're going to do this. But the automation portion for IBM Cloud with Terraform makes this so easy and so fast. Bill said 7 minutes. I said the video 7 minutes. But like I did say, it's about 25 minutes from start to finish. But what we're doing here is just plugging in our dependencies, right? It's 4 interfaces per device. You have your inside interface or outside interface, a management interface, and an HA. So those IP addresses get plugged in here into their dependency spots. We're also going to have the region that this is going to be deployed in: East, Washington, Dallas, Europe, doesn't matter where it is. Cloud API key. I've already deleted that, so don't try and reuse it. And then we're just going to, the same thing: security groups, public key, and then subnet UUIDs. Subnet 1, 2, 3, and 4. Our VPC name, and what zone in the region we're going to deploy. Once that's all done, just like anything else, you're going to click, and you read all your third-party terms and install. Terraform takes over at that point. Really quick, I think it takes about 12 minutes for that portion to complete. I just kind of sit there and watch it because, I don't know, that's kind of like what I do, I guess. But as we go through this, and this is obviously speeded up quite a bit, but if there's any errors or anything like that, you're going to see them all here. At the bottom where I'm highlighting, this is where all of your information is going to be. IP addresses for the two FortiGates, public IPs, and assigns a floating IP to each one, as well as their inside and outside HA and management IP addresses. And it gives you a VIP, a centralized VIP to connect to. So once you have everything stood up, all you have to do is hit a browser, HTTPS to one of these public floating IP addresses, and you're in. So here I'm just kind of showing what this looks like inside of IBM Cloud GUI. Here's all our IP addresses that have been created by Terraform for us. These floating IP addresses are created automatically. We don't choose those. VPC chooses them for us. But like I said, it's as easy as connecting to your browser, putting that IP address in. Your username is going to be admin, and then you're going to use your instance ID as the initial login. So instance ID is your first password. Then it just asks you to change your password, which you're going to do here. Confirm. The next stage of this, once you get that all set, is a re-login. And then it's going to ask for a license. Either you can license with a BYOL, something that you've already purchased, or you can go ahead and click eval license. That'll give you a 15-day eval period. Once you do license it, the instance reboots, and you're going to do the same exact thing to the second firewall. Probably should have sped this up a little bit more because we've already seen it, but this is what it looks like as soon as you do complete those steps. So once you license it, you're able to log in. It looks exactly the same as a physical FortiGate firewall, anywhere that you're going to see it. Either physical, virtual, doesn't matter where, as Bill said, it looks exactly the same touch and feel. You wouldn't even know it was in the cloud if we weren't watching it live or recorded. So as we finish up this process, toward the end here, we're coming up to it, just going to finish up standing up this second firewall. Once this is licensed, we can go ahead and show the failover process. And that's where I can actually show a little bit of the debugging on the IBM Cloud API connector. Another quick login. Okay, now we have both firewalls licensed and provisioned. And like I said, that portion takes about 20 minutes. The last 5 minutes, I think, was just kind of an HA demonstration here. You can see that these are the two firewalls that we have provisioned. We have an active and a passive. The status is both synchronized. This works flawlessly in IBM Cloud. Honestly, it very rarely ever pickups. The only problem sometimes I have is I just put in the wrong IP address in a spot. But here it's kind of tough to see. But what I'm going to do here is I'm on the primary firewall right now, SSH'd in, and I'm going to force a failover as we watch the debug for the IBM Cloud connector on the secondary firewall. So as we SSH into the secondary, and we give it our password, and we're logged into both. Here's our debug commands on the secondary. We're debugging the IBM daemon. That's our IBM Cloud connector. We're setting the command on the active to manually fail the devices over. This way we can look and see what's actually going to happen. You definitely want to fail over. Yes, we do. And our debug commands are coming out. And you can see that the IBM Cloud connector is now receiving a token, which is going to allow it to pass that token to the other device, which initiates the failover to the secondary device. Once that is complete, we'll take you back to the GUI, just refresh the GUI and show you that the failover has occurred. And we're still in business. No hiccups at all. Sessions are still intact. I didn't have the ability to kind of show both sessions, but it takes about 3 seconds for the synchronization to pick back up between the firewalls, but because the failover has already occurred, there is no session loss. Typically what happens is once they do fail over, the previously active device will log you out. You just have to log back in, look at our HA status. We're resynchronized again, but now the active device is now a secondary and the passive device is now the primary. That's the quick and dirty demo of.
George, in a realistic production environment, something happens.
Just repeat the.
Sure. How long does the failover take in any kind of environment?
Typical environment.
Typical environment, it's really probably a second or two. For the actual connections, probably to switch over. I mean, it's probably a second. Enough time, not enough time for any sessions to be dropped. I think within IBM Cloud, we actually tested and we lose one packet during failover, but no session loss and no failure or dropping of sessions. So it's really quick. And I think it's not much better in a physical environment. IBM Cloud does really well with this, especially I think it's, honestly, the way the IBM Cloud connector has been written, as well as the backend networking of IBM Cloud to be able to handle that, those session transfers. We actually switch routing. The routes switch when the IBM Cloud connector takes over, and during that failover, that main route, internal and the public facing routes switch over to the other device really quick. So that's the FortiGates and HA pair and how easy it is to actually provision and configure. Something like that, if you were going to do it manually, would probably take you a couple of hours just to be able to have to create the interfaces, the networking, configuring the HA, etc. So this makes it much, much easier, much, much faster. So I did want to talk about a couple of other things before we go. These are some new solutions, not new to Fortinet, but they're coming new to IBM Cloud. The first one is FortiWeb, and this is Fortinet's web application firewall. It's a WAF. It's a full-featured WAF. This is going to be available in IBM Cloud very soon. It's not the next thing that we're doing. The next thing that we're going to be deploying in IBM Cloud is actually the next thing that I want to show you, but I wanted to talk to you about FortiWeb first. This has become very popular. It's extremely popular in the rest of the CSPs that we actually partner with. It's a huge seller in several other cloud environments, AWS, Azure, GCP. But a lot of companies now, as you know, are moving their applications into the cloud. They're moving it into public cloud. WAF has become very important in cloud environments. FortiWeb is just, it's like I said, it's a fully fledged WAF. It does everything a WAF is supposed to do plus more. Because it's a Fortinet appliance or solution, it also integrates within the rest of our ecosystem. So it shares metadata with any other devices that you have that are Fortinet branded. It also, we also address that interoperability question because we can interoperate with so many third-party vendors, over 300 what we call fabric connectors. Just like the IBM Cloud connector, we have pre-built for other vendors as well. We understand that customers and environments make huge investments in technologies. We don't want to have a customer want to use our products but not be able to because they have to reinvest in a whole new Fortinet suite of products. No, you don't have to do that. We integrate with a lot of things. Most of the time, I don't think we've come across a customer that we can't integrate with their existing products. So with FortiWeb, we have just 5 main use cases, the obvious ones, right? Web application security, we protect against the OWASP top 10 and 0 days. Bot defense, we block malicious bots, but we don't interfere with the good bots like search engines. And we alleviate the need for user verification like CAPTCHAs and stuff like that with bot defense. Regulatory compliance, we address those related to public-facing applications, typically PCI DSS 6.6. You check that box using a FortiWeb appliance or solution. Protecting internet-facing APIs is a big one these days for DevOps and DevSecOps. We become the central point of entry to APIs. And we also obfuscate API, excuse me, I lost my word. API, I'm going to go ahead and skip that part because I can't remember what I was going to say. Apologize for that. SOC operations. So we have Fortinet's threat intelligence platform is called FortiGuard. FortiGuard is where we keep all our intelligence that we pass down for our field devices. SOC operations is greatly improved and speeded up by FortiGuard and our threat intelligence by delivering actionable intelligence quickly, immediately, remediate threats, you identify threats immediately. It makes things a lot faster. It alleviates the burden on the engineers to have to go through all this stuff on their own manually. So as I was talking about FortiGuard, here's the services that are available for FortiWeb. These are services that can be registered for the solution. WAF security services, there's a lot of different layers here, but at the top level, it's web security, IP reputation, anti-malware, cloud sandbox, credential stuffing, and threat analytics, which we just talked about. Yes, AI and machine learning. Yep, absolutely. Constantly. Yes. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. I know we're kind of short on time here, but I wanted to get through the majority of this information. If there's no other questions on FortiWeb, I'm going to move on to the next portion, and that is Fortinet Application Delivery Controller. So this is the next piece that's coming to IBM Cloud. This will be available in the next several months as a tile. This is an application delivery controller. It's an application load balancer is basically what it is. So application connectors built for layer 4 and 7 load balancing. It's got a web application firewall built in, user authentication services, SSL inspection services, cloud connectors, just like the FortiGate and other operating systems that we do have available. Multi-service solution, like we just said, WAF, DDoS, authentication. Excuse me. If you're looking for a global solution load balancer, that is also part of this. That is as a service solution. So we do offer a global system load balancer as well, basically offering the same type of protection here that the FortiADC, which is what this is called, offers as well. Yeah, so I think what we're going to, I think what we've talked about with that would be the FortiGate. FortiGate offers the entire suite of services as any UTM would. So SSL inspection on the FortiGate firewall, as well as on these services as well. So ADC, FortiWeb also has the ability to do SSL inspection, but FortiGate itself does a deep SSL inspection. So these combined with the FortiGate solution would be a mega solution. Yes, you're working up the stack at that point. And the question was SSL inspection, correct? Was basically the main point. So yes, all of that is completely available and available within all of these solutions. Typically with FortiWeb, you're looking for a solution that's going to be in front of your applications. In ADC services or load balancing services are going to be more of an anywhere type of solution. So where is the user? User can be anywhere. Where are the applications? Applications are everywhere. As far as FortiWeb is concerned, the applications are typically behind the FortiWeb. What we usually see is a FortiGate, the FortiWeb, then the applications. This is just a graphical representation of what we're talking about here as far as ADC services are concerned. And if we start top left, integrations for applications and cloud. So all the major hyperscalers and applications, SAP, Kubernetes, and Clockwise we work around. Fabric connectors, and like I mentioned, we call this the Fortinet Security Fabric because it does integrate with the rest of our product suite. So they're all sharing metadata together. The three red lines there is the FortiGate firewall. Above that is our FortiAnalyzer, which is our logging and analytics solution. Above that is FortiSandbox, which is our sandboxing solution. And above that is the GSL. So they can all be used together. They can all be combined. Yes. No, not at all, please.
Read your limit.
I see IPS, as what I am not seeing here. Protection.
So IPS and IDS kind of live together. And the question is, do we offer IDS? Where is IDS? Part of the IPS solution. So IPS can be deployed inline blocking. It can be deployed on a span just for detection. It can be deployed in learning mode so that when you first initially deploy IPS, you don't have to block before you start to block. But typically with IDS, you can either not block at all, or you can put it on the span to the side. We'll span all that traffic, see it all, and you'll still get the login. It just won't block. You're welcome. Keep going around clockwise, application visibility. So like I said, we have integrations with all these third-party vendors. Out of the box ability to be able to integrate with third-party vendors like Splunk. Keep going around to the bottom left, API services. Bill mentioned we are one of the most integratable solutions out there. So we partner with automation solutions as well, such as Ansible and Terraform, the SAW. Large libraries with Ansible playbooks and Terraform templates that are available in Git. They're also available on our website, Fortinet Developer Network as well. So anytime anybody wants to go see what our APIs look like or need to do some API testing or integrations, or Ansible playbooks, they're all available to you without registration or purchasing anything. And some of our FortiGuard services for ADC are going to include WAF, IP reputation, antivirus and IPS, again, cloud sandboxing. And when I say cloud sandboxing, I mean this is a SaaS solution that is in the Fortinet cloud. So there's no physical device, no extra device to have to provision or lifecycle manage. It's all part of this service. For uploads and downloads scanned if you want them to be in the Fortinet cloud with JVM out lifecycle. Credential stuffing defense and web filtering as well. So like I said, this is going to be available within IBM Cloud within the next several months as a tile. It'll be a BYOL solution, just like the FortiGate firewalls are right now, until such time that allows for pay-go type of experience. And just to wrap up on ADC, it's a complete security solution. Any user can be anywhere, applications can be anywhere, still being able to utilize WAF, IP reputation, AV, IPS, sandboxing, API gateways, integration with the FortiGate, the Fortinet Fabric, FortiGate, SIM, Analyzer, Sandbox, Cloud and Fabric connectors, automation and scripting, advanced GSLB as a service. Again, nothing to lifecycle manage for that either. That is also in our cloud. And the best price performance TCO in the market. That's all I have. I think I hit the time pretty good there. So any questions, just let me know if there's any online. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, George. Hey, and again, Fortinet, longtime partner of IBM Cloud, so we appreciate your continued partnership. Let's go into more security aspects with Mike.
Thanks, Roger.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Murphy. I am an IBM Cloud Platform Technical Specialist for the national market in the Southeast region. First, I want to thank everybody for joining our Tech Tuesday demo days. Hope you've had a good session thus far, and want to also thank those people that are attending virtually. And we do appreciate the support, and hopefully you will subscribe and tune in for later editions of Tech Tuesday demo days. So, as we're winding down today, I've got a lightning round demo on UKO. What I'm going to do is just go through probably 2 or 3 slides to tell you what Unified Key Orchestrator is, and then we're going to do a demo that's going to take about 10 minutes and just show you some of the capabilities of the offering. So Unified Key Orchestrator, what is it? It is an add-on capability for HyperProtect crypto services that essentially provides you or the ability for customers to manage keys across hybrid multi-cloud environments, key management services, otherwise known as KMSs. If you're not familiar with HyperProtect crypto services, that is IBM's dedicated KMS offering and HSM that is built on FIPS 140-2 Level 4 certified hardware that leverages Linux One technology. And this is the highest offered by any cloud provider in the industry that not only offers the operational assurance and guarantee that IBM cloud admins and others won't access your keys and data, but also the technical assurance and guarantee that they can't even if they tried. So the problem with growing and expanding enterprises, especially as it pertains to multi-cloud estates, is keeping up with your key management strategy. As more clouds and resources are introduced, this makes keeping up with your keys complex and difficult, which not only raises security concerns for your resources and your data, but it also can be a compliance issue in some regulated industries as to how you manage those keys. So take a look at the right side of the screen. Here we could have a typical multi-cloud estate with a variety of keys that are managed in the KMS of each cloud provider. Managing each of these key stores within those respective KMSs is cumbersome, it's difficult from a skills perspective, it's highly inefficient, and it's less secure than having a single repository for all of your keys. So here we have UKO. Using this service and the level of security built in, customers can easily and securely manage and orchestrate their keys across a multi-cloud environment from a single pane of glass in the IBM Cloud Console. So here they can easily generate keys, then they can push them to the key stores on Amazon, on Azure, on Google, or even on-premise or an on-premise system running satellite. Then they can also deactivate them, they can rotate them, or they can destroy them as they see fit. So if you think about the progression with that seamless user experience from one single pane of glass and factor in all the hidden nuances on how the different key management systems work, this provides an ability for customers to manage their keys across the environment through that single pane of glass with industry-leading security, all within the IBM Cloud. So now that you have gotten a crash course essentially on what UKO is, I want to take you through a demo. And the demo flow is, as you can see on the screen, what we're going to be doing is I've got an AWS account as well as obviously an IBM Cloud account. And I'm going to create a key for an AWS key store using Unified Key Orchestrator in the IBM Cloud. So I'm actually not going to be creating that key in AWS. I'm going to be creating that key in the IBM Cloud and then pushing that key to AWS. So once I create that key, we're going to verify that it has been created and pushed to the AWS account. And then we're going to create an S3 object storage bucket that is going to be encrypted by that key, and we're going to upload a file to the bucket. And then we're going to download the file, and everything should work fine, and we're going to be able to download the file and see it. And then we're going to pull the switch. We're going to deactivate that key in the Unified Key Orchestrator within the IBM Cloud. And then we're going to attempt to download the file and see what happens. And time permitting, we will reactivate that key in UKO and attempt to download that file again. And we'll see what happens. So let's get right to it. So let me pull up the IBM Cloud console. And if you just go to catalog, this is going to be kind of your home page if you have an account with us. If not, you can easily get one for free. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to HyperProtect Crypto Services. So if we go to this hamburger in the top left of the screen, we're going to scroll down to security, and we're going to click on HyperProtect Crypto Services, which we already have provisioned. And what you'll see here is our HyperProtect Crypto Service instance that's been provisioned, and we're going to go down to Manage Keys underneath Vaults. And a vault is basically just a collection of key stores with access control that you can define around it. So you can group a bunch of people within, a single vault, give them the same permissions to make it easier. That's basically what a vault is. So we're going to go to Manage Keys, and we are going to create a key. Scroll down. Hopefully the screen's not too big. I actually enlarged it so you can see a little bit better. And we're going to use the TechZone Vault. We're going to be creating this key for AWS. So we're going to select AWS KMS. And we're going to give it a name. And Murph key is going to work for us. The algorithm for the key that we're using for AWS is going to be the AES encryption method. That stands for Advanced Encryption Standard. Basically means that the same key is going to be used to encrypt and decrypt the data. Key length is going to be 256. Lifecycle properties, we're going to select active because we want this to be activated automatically. And we're going to select today's date. If we wanted to do a key for a future state, then or set some parameters around it, then we could do pre-active, and we could kind of define when we wanted that key to be activated. But we're not going to do that for this demo. Tags, everybody knows what tags are. If we've got a lot of keys, we can associate a tag with that key to make it easily identifiable and easy to find within our resources. So we're going to click on Next. And then we're going to just confirm this is going to the AWS TechZone Vault. And then we have one more confirmation page. And then we're going to create the key. And within a few seconds, we should see a window pop up at the top right of the screen. That's going to give us a successful sign that Murph key has been created and activated. As you can see down here, it is created and gives us some details on that key right there. So what I want to do now is to switch over to AWS, and I've already logged into AWS, so we're going to go into the key management service. And lo and behold, there is our key that has already been pushed from Unified Key Orchestrator into AWS. So there is our key right there. It's enabled, and what I want to do now is simply create an S3 storage bucket. Need to favorite that. And we're going to create a bucket. I will say the bucket name is Murph UKO demo. Pretty sure nobody's used that before. We're going to make sure this is in the same region that we deployed our UKO on AWS, which is the North Virginia Data Center, US East. As far as object ownership, we don't need any access control lists. We're going to block all public access. We're not going to be uploading and downloading different versions of the file, so we don't need bucket versioning. Tags, don't need any tags. So when we get down to default encryption, we're actually going to select the AWS Key Management Service, and then we're going to choose our key that is going to populate from the list. And there Murph key is. So we're encrypting this bucket with the key that I created in UKO. And bucket key, we're obviously going to have that enabled. So now that we're going to create the bucket. And Murph UKO demo bucket has been created successfully. I don't need to see the details, but I will go into it. And we're going to upload a photo. And I'm a big fan of bikes, so I've got a photo of some of my nicer bikes that I'm going to upload. And that upload was successful. And we're going to just click on that. We're going to download it. I already have it saved on the hard drive, so I'm going to replace that one. And then we're going to bring it up. And there are some of my bikes. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go back to the buckets here, but I want to go back to Unified Key Orchestrator within the IBM Cloud, and I want to deactivate that key. So I don't want anybody to be able to access or download or manipulate that photo, which I just used a photo for demo purposes, but any file that you want to use to toss in object storage, I don't want anybody to be able to download that, manipulate that, or edit that. So what I'm going to do in UKO here is I'm going to go to my key, and I'm going to go to the far right with these three little dots right here, and I'm going to deactivate that key. It's going to give me a confirmation key, just stating that I understand the key is going to be detached from the AWS key store that it's assigned to, and that's exactly what I want to do. So of course I'm going to agree. We're going to deactivate the key, and I should get a window at the top right saying that that key's been deactivated. And no longer, the resources that are associated with that key are no longer going to be accessible. So what I want to do now is we're going to go back to Amazon. We're going to go back to my bucket. And we are going to attempt to download this file again. So we're going to click on download, and we're going to get an error message. And if you want to read the nitty-gritty details here, it's basically saying that our key, the state is pending import, meaning that the key is not available to access those objects that are in our S3 bucket. So we've got a little bit of time left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to UKO, and I'm going to filter out the deactivated keys, and I'm actually going to, reactivate this key. We'll get the successful message at the top right of the screen saying it's been activated, and we're going to go back to AWS. We're going to click on our file, and we're able to download it now. So that concludes the demo. The heart of this entire offering and capability is to manage keys, with a single view. You can see how many keys you have across which key stores, what state they're in. You can activate them, you can deactivate them, you can rotate them, you can destroy them. But bringing all this home, UKO provides a single intuitive tool with a tiered pricing model. I know we didn't have time to get into the pricing model, but we can do that at a later date, or you can contact me and I'll be happy to walk you through it. Designed to reduce the complexity and cost of managing multiple key management systems. We encourage you to see for yourself how easy it is to manage your own keys across IBM Cloud, AWS, Google, and Microsoft Azure. All you need to do is to log into IBM Cloud to get started now. And for more information, please reach out to myself or my colleagues with any questions. we'll be happy to help you out. And thanks again for attending this Tech Tuesday demo days. And I will pass it over to Joel now. Thanks so much.
Nice job, Mike, with the simplicity, keeping all your cloud keys. Over to Joel now for the closeout on Security and Compliance Center.
Perfect. Thank you. Share my screen.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joel Brown, and I'll be presenting IBM Cloud Security and Compliance Center. So here, kind of have just like a quick one pager, just to give you a quick overview of what SCC is. It's basically a tool to give organizations kind of a single pane of glass view of their environment. Like it says, you can automate all your security and compliance. You can create different scopes or different rules to go out and find different things on your network, increase visibility, things of that nature. It's all integrated into one dashboard, which I'll show you here in a second. And this page here, it just gives you a little explanation of everything, including how you can define your security controls with profiles. So there are a lot of predefined things that IBM has built into SCC. So, but if you need anything outside of what IBM has pre-built, you can build it yourself. But for the most part, there are like hundreds of pre-built controls that you can use, and you can test your environment against those controls and compliance as well. Like I said, you can implement the automation of those controls, and you can also access those controls with continuous monitoring. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop sharing really quick, and I'm going to go into IBM Cloud and show you how to build the scan. I'm not going to run the scan because it'll probably take too long, and I know you guys are probably ready to go. Okay, so here we are in IBM Cloud in the Security Compliance Center. And just so you know, to get to this page, hit the little hamburger menu at the top, go down to Security Compliance, click that, and it'll bring you here. So if you go under hybrid cloud configurations, you go down to your scopes. As you can see, there are other scopes built in. These are still running, which they're probably huge scans, so they're still running. But in order to, you just go to create. And of course, same thing, you name your scan, put whatever description you would like. And my target here is going to be IBM Cloud account. But as you can see, you can do AWS, Azure, Google, or your on-prem environment. For my credentials, I'll just use my SCC credentials, but whatever credentials you have created, you just use those. And the collectors go along with the scope to define what you're scanning. So we just have one managed collector here. So here you have 3 types of scans. I'll just be initially doing a discovery scan. So just kind of goes out across the network and see what you have, and it'll bring back whatever you defined in those scope and in that scope to see if you're compliant or not. You can set the frequency. You can have it run every day. You can say it never ends, how many occurrences on a specific date. It's kind of, if you're familiar with AV scans, it's very similar to setting up an AV scan and just letting it automate itself. So this is the page right here. You would create your scan, and then once you create your scan, you can go back and run it. And depending on the size of your network, or depending on what you determine in that scope, will determine how long it takes to run that scan. So here, this is a scan that was already run before the demo, just to give everyone a view of what you will have after the scan. So basically it scanned against 138 items and it was compliant. It was 78% compliant of those 138 items or 138 controls. So here you see you got 78% compliant, you were non-compliant 37%, and 450, they weren't applicable to what you had set in the scope, or it takes a user to evaluate those. Off to the right here, we have what's called our drift view, which gives you kind of almost a line bar graph type, and you just scroll over each section. You can see which, you could drill down into each one of these scans. So here you have rules as well. As you can see, these rules, it tells you, these are all predefined rules, like I said earlier, but it tells you what these rules will check for when they're going out, and it'll tell you what service and everything they're checking for. So like I said, it's a ton of rules, and depending on what you're looking for, there may be a rule already created, but if not, you can create your own rule. So here are the control libraries. IBM Cloud for Financial Services is a big one. As you can see, it has 565 controls. So if you drill down into that, and it'll just give you all of these descriptions for all of these controls in relation to financial services. So you could even, once you drill down into once you drill down, you can see it'll tell you specifications of each one of the controls that you have that are listed here. Here are some. Here's kind of a architecture diagram of how SEC is set up. You can kind of see the flow of information starting from left to right, and it just gives you a brief overview of how the scans are created and how the flow of information goes through this. And that's about all I have, barring any questions.